Welcome to our channel, a place where we dive into the deepest shadows of human emotions, betrayals, and hidden truths. Today we unravel a story not of triumph, but of rage, despair, and the torment that lingers when life becomes a labyrinth of guilt and suspicion. This is not just about survival, it is about what remains after survival when every heartbeat is poisoned by the echoes of betrayal. Doug should have died that night. The crash tore through the silence like an uninvited scream. Twisted metal folded into itself, glass shattered into stardust across the asphalt, and the violent scent of gasoline fused with the cold air. The world should have ended for him there, pinned beneath the weight of broken steel. Yet in the chaos, it was Randy who emerged, pulling him back from the edge where death had already stretched out its hand. For Doug, every gasp of air after that moment was not a blessing but a reminder that he was living on borrowed time, saved by someone else's will, not his own. But survival was only the beginning. What followed was the unraveling of truths sharp enough to cut deeper than shattered glass. Randy could not shake the question of why the accident happened at all. It was too precise, too sudden, too deliberate. Each fragment of memory, each detail of the wreckage whispered of something beyond mere coincidence. His suspicion grew into obsession, and obsession sharpened into revelation when the shadows pointed him toward Marcel. Marcel, a figure who lingered in the periphery, neither friend nor stranger, carried with him the quiet menace of one who holds secrets too heavy to confess. To Randy, the realization hit like a storm breaking across calm waters: the accident was no accident. It was an execution designed to end Doug's life. The horror was not in the randomness of fate but in the calculated cruelty of intent. And the name attached to that intent was Marcel. Doug felt the weight of this discovery not with clarity, but with confusion, anger, and a deep ache that twisted his stomach into knots. The man who had tried to erase him from existence was not a faceless predator, but someone he knew, someone whose shadow had touched his own life. The betrayal sank into him like venom, spreading through every vein until even the sound of his own heartbeat felt poisoned. The nights became a battlefield. Doug would close his eyes only to relive the screeching tires, the sudden impact, the suffocating pressure of metal caving in. He would feel again the helplessness of being trapped, the helplessness that burned his pride and reduced him to prey. Each dream ended the same way, with Marcel's unseen presence lingering at the edge of the flames, a phantom smiling at the wreckage. Doug would wake soaked in sweat, lungs clawing for air, as though still buried beneath twisted steel. Survival had become a curse. Randy, too, was haunted. His mind replayed every step that led to the discovery, every thread of evidence pointing toward Marcel's guilt. To carry knowledge of such malice was to hold a weight that threatened to crush him. He had saved Doug's body, but how could he save his spirit, corroded now by betrayal and fear? Reporting Marcel to the authorities was the rational path, the lawful path, but it did not soothe the storm inside him. It felt like a hollow act against a crime that had nearly ended the life of his friend. Marcel's arrest came like a fracture in silence. The cold hands of the law closed around him, yet the victory felt empty. Doug stood at a distance, watching as the man who had orchestrated his near death was dragged into the light. But justice did not heal. Justice did not erase the nightmares. Justice did not return the sense of safety that had been stolen forever. The sight of Marcel restrained did not offer closure, it only deepened the abyss, as though the capture had merely awakened darker questions. Why had Marcel chosen him? What hidden grievance or twisted logic had led to the decision to end his life? Was it hatred, envy, or some unspoken resentment festering beneath the surface of ordinary days? Doug tore through his memories searching for an answer, but each recollection became poisoned, each interaction stained by the knowledge of attempted murder. His past was rewritten in shadows, and in those shadows, he saw Marcel everywhere. The fury inside Doug grew until it consumed him. Anger at Marcel, anger at himself for not seeing it coming, anger at Randy for carrying the burden of truth before revealing it. His thoughts became jagged shards cutting into each other. Gratitude to Randy twisted into bitterness. If Randy had not saved him, perhaps he would have been spared this torment. Survival had chained him to a reality where betrayal was not only possible but inevitable. The house that once felt like sanctuary became a cage. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind against the window seemed to carry Marcel's echo. Even with Marcel locked away, Doug felt pursued, hunted by the invisible grip of paranoia. His reflection in the mirror became distorted, a stranger staring back, bruised not on the skin but in the soul. He began to question whether the true enemy was Marcel or the self he had become since the crash, fragile, fractured, furious. Randy bore his own torment. Saving Doug had been an act of loyalty, of friendship, of instinct. Yet as he watched Doug unravel, he wondered if he had condemned him instead. Each attempt to help only met the wall of Doug's silence, his anger, his withdrawal into darkness. Randy felt powerless, a bystander to a slow disintegration. The guilt gnawed at him. Perhaps the cruelest fate was not death in a moment of fire and steel, but life in the smoldering ashes afterward. Marcel, confined within the walls of justice, became a phantom beyond those walls. His absence was more haunting than his presence had ever been. Doug and Randy could not escape him, for Marcel was no longer a man but a symbol of betrayal, of death deferred, of the fragility of trust. And though caged, his shadow sprawled across their days and nights, a constant reminder that evil does not end with chains, it lingers in memory, in fear, in the silent spaces between heartbeats. As time crawled forward, the weight of the past refused to lift. Doug began to drift further into isolation, his anger calcifying into a permanent wound. Randy, worn by his own guilt, found himself watching helplessly as a friend he had saved slipped into the abyss of madness. Marcel's crime had been to attempt murder, but the deeper crime was the destruction of their humanity, leaving behind survivors who could no longer recognize themselves. And so the story does not end with justice served, or lives neatly restored. It ends in fragments, shattered trust, sleepless nights, unanswered questions. A man saved from death, but not from despair. A rescuer burdened by the cost of salvation. A betrayer who, even in captivity, continues to reign in the shadows of memory. This is not victory. This is not healing. This is survival at its darkest, a survival where every breath carries the echo of twisted metal, every thought carries the weight of betrayal, and every shadow whispers the name Marcel. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. If you want more journeys into the depths of human emotions, betrayals, and the hidden struggles of the soul, make sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.